Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're doing something pretty radical. We're going to take one of the most sophisticated meditation systems ever developed, Daniel P. Brown's synthesis of pointing out the great way, and completely reframe it. Forget about philosophical belief systems for a minute. Forget about wrestling with complex intellectual ideas about emptiness. Instead, we're going to look at this practice exactly for what it is: rigorous, high-speed, athletic cognitive training.
Take a second right now. Just listen to that little voice in your head and notice how your own thoughts are forming in real time. Now, what if you could actually learn to outpace them? What if the goal of all this isn't to sit around deeply analyzing your mind, but simply to operate faster than your mind can even construct its own reality? That's the core premise we're unpacking today. It's literally a performance training program designed to crank up the speed of your cognitive recognition.
So here's our training schedule for today. First, the mind's speed limit. Then, a radical athletic reframe. Third, the 500 milliseconds threshold. Next, Phase 1, the elephant path, followed by Phase 2, automatic emptiness. And finally, the awakened baseline.
All right, part 1, the mind's speed limit. Let's talk about the slow motion of human experience.
You probably feel like you're experiencing life in perfectly fluid real time, right? Well, not exactly. Your experience is actually bottlenecked by a massive cognitive delay. Dan Brown maps out this incredibly clear hierarchy. When you form a thought or try to logically work out a problem, that conceptual process takes anywhere from half a second to 3 full seconds. In neurological terms, that is comically slow. Now, directed attention, like suddenly noticing a loud sound, is faster. That takes about 200 milliseconds. But pure awareness, in lab settings using high-speed equipment like a tachoscope, awareness can be measured all the way down to 5 milliseconds, which, by the way, is just the limit of the machine itself. As Brown puts it, pure awareness actually operates at the speed of light.
So here's the crucial takeaway. Before you even consciously recognize that you're looking at a stimulus, your mind is already frantically chopping up the wholeness of reality into tiny digestible pieces. The Tibetans actually have a word for this. They call it Yila machépa, or particularizing. And this tendency operates way faster than your attention does. Before you even know something is there, your mind is darting toward it, breaking the totality of your experience into discrete, separate little bits.
So why is all this chopping up a bad thing? Well, Mipham, a legendary Dzogchen scholar, hit the nail on the head. He said the function of conceptualization is to delineate. Think of it like this. Every single time you conceptualize, you're acting like thick clouds obscuring the sun. You're segmenting and dividing up this boundless ocean of awareness love that is literally always present. Every microsecond your mind leans towards something specific, it fragments the beautiful totality of what's right here, right now.
Moving on to part 2. A radical athletic reframe. It's time to outpace the construction. To really get this, Brown uses this brilliant metaphor involving Major League Baseball legend Tony Gwynn. Gwynn was an absolute machine, hitting .338 over his career. And how did he train? By having tennis balls shot at him at 200 miles per hour. Why on earth would he do that? Because a standard 95-mile-per-hour fastball reaches home plate in about 400 milliseconds. If you rely on conceptual thought to hit that ball, which we know takes 500 milliseconds, you physically cannot do it. You're just way too slow. Even directed attention takes 250 milliseconds, barely giving you a chance to track the pitch. But by training his brain to operate out of lightning-fast awareness instead of sluggish thought, a hitter can effortlessly track and smash that fastball. It completely proves the power of outpacing your own biological machine. Which brings us to part 3, the 500 millisecond threshold. Let's look at how we beat the brain's built-in delay. So what is your brain actually doing during that half-second delay? It takes about 500 milliseconds to turn a raw spark of a mind moment into a fully formed thought. But here's the crazy part. In that exact same window, your brain is actively constructing what neuroscientists call autoenetic consciousness. That's the construction of your autobiographical self. The very sensation of being a continuous I moving through time, yeah, that takes several hundred milliseconds to render. Let that sink in for a second. The you that you feel like you are right this very second is actually a delayed construction. Brown makes it super clear. Awareness operates at the speed of light, while thought needs that 500 millisecond runway to take off. Therefore, if we train our recognition to be fast enough, a thought simply won't form at all. And to be clear, this is not about brutally suppressing your thoughts. That's a huge misconception. It's just that your awareness is moving so incredibly fast that it crosses the finish line before the brain's construction threshold even gets started. You recognize and release that mental energy before the thought can even be built. All right, part 4, Phase 1, the elephant path. Time to actually build that processing speed.
You can't just sprint right out of the gate. First, you have to establish intense concentration, often called shine, or stain meditation. This forges a laser-like mental pliancy. And mental pliancy just means your mind goes exactly where you tell it to go instantly, with zero distraction. Nailing this foundational speed is absolutely non-negotiable if you want to execute the higher speed maneuvers later on, like the emptiness searches, where you rapidly scan for the self and continually fail to find it. Once you've got that laser-like focus locked in, you start roaming around with your awareness. Since awareness operates at warp speed, you can scan your internal experience with literal microsecond precision. Traditional texts actually describe experiencing 100,000 bursts of energy in the time it takes to blink. By adopting this fierce lion-like gaze, you catch thoughts as raw energy at the very head of their formation, rather than at the tail long after they've already solidified into some distracting daydream about what you're having for lunch. Next up is Part 5, Phase 2, Automatic Emptiness. This is where speed becomes entirely reflexive. At this stage, you transition from doing to automatic. Any active attempt to investigate, reflect on, or push away your thoughts is completely empty the second it arises. You aren't doing meditation anymore. Instead, everything that pops into your awareness is spontaneously recognized as empty in a single millisecond. Mental events just arise and vanish, leaving absolutely no trace. It's exactly like trying to write a sentence on the surface of water. The speed has become 100% reflexive. I absolutely love this next concept. Dan Brown calls it the metacognitive mousetrap. Imagine you're an incredibly alert owl, perched and waiting for a mouse. Early in your training, you might catch a few thoughts as they scurry across the field, but eventually, the owl of your awareness is operating so incredibly fast and with such vigilance that the poor mouse of conceptual thought is scared completely stiff. Conceptual thought simply stops daring to arise because your recognition outpaces its ability to even peek out of the hole. Finally, Part 6, the awakened baseline, unfolding the natural state. This right here is the ultimate goal, moving from a temporary state of deep meditation into a permanent everyday baseline. This 4-step arc perfectly captures the curriculum. You build your foundational capacity. You apply that newfound speed to recognition. You train it under load until it's just unconscious competence. And then you stabilize it as a continuous 24/7 baseline. It's a progression that shatters the eggshell of our slow, heavily edited reality. You aren't trying to be fast anymore. The mind is just unfolding by itself, to itself, in its natural state. Now, reality check time. Because this is quite literally motor learning, you cannot master it just by dabbling. It's not some casual contemplation for the weekend warrior. I mean, you wouldn't try to step into the batter's box against a major league pitcher without years of coaching, right? The same logic applies here. You need rigorous effort, highly qualified teachers, dedicated retreat time, and a strictly sequential syllabus. This is highly specialized skill acquisition. But hold on, let's zoom out and look at the big picture here. All of this astonishing technical precision isn't just some brain hack. It's not about optimizing your workflow or boosting your productivity. The entire system is designed purely to clear away the heavy obscurations of our slow, conceptual minds and to liberate a boundless heart. As Dan Brown constantly reminded his students, at the end of the day, this is all about uncovering awareness love for the benefit of all beings. So, as we wrap up this explainer, as you sit there right now, noticing that tiny, brief gap of space between your thoughts, I want you to ask yourself, instead of just trying to philosophically understand your mind, are you ready to put in the athletic training required to outpace your own illusions? Thanks so much for joining me today, and I really encourage you to keep a close eye on exactly how fast your reality is being built.